might be confusing. We're doing it afterwards.
All right. Oh, Mr. Galaxy is Tematope.
Okay.
And Abby has joined us. Still missing a lot of people here. So we're going to wait a few more minutes. It's not even the top of the hour yet, so.
Somebody else has joined us, I think, Bill.
I'm going to go take a quick peek at the grades, see how people are doing.
On the last exercise, we've only had 6 responses so far. So we're going to extend the marking period out to the end of this week. And after that, we will close down on marking for this particular exercise. But I'll ask some questions about any difficulties people have had.
This is Module 5, Assignment 1, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Let's see, I have it. They have it due November 12th, so you want me to move that date up, right?
Yeah.
Let's see.
That was Monday.
For next Monday, the 19th?
No, I want to move it up to Friday. That's it. We want to bring down the guillotine on the 16th. We don't receive it on the 16th. No marks.
All right, just change it to the 16th.
Yeah.
Okay, and let me take a look at grades. It's the top of the hour. So not very many people have joined the first discussion either for Module 5.
No, right. There's been fairly low participation. I need to find out why.
13 people have yet to do Assignment 1. So, as you say, quite a few people need to do Assignment 1. We also have a bunch of people who have not signed up on the webinar either. Module 5, Webinar 1. All right, I'll be right back. My alarm clock is going off somewhere. Well, we have Robert has joined us. Good afternoon, Robert. And Christopher has joined. Hi, Christopher.
I'm good. Okay.
And we see that Tematope says he's in transit, but he's still connected, so that's good.
Yeah.
All right, so I think I'm going to begin the talking part of, my part of the webinar, and then we'll turn it over to Hugh shortly. So welcome, everybody. For those who've been listening to the dead air space for the last minute or two, apologies. We are going to get underway in just a second. I want to remind everybody that we really have only about 2.5 weeks to go here, and the course is going to be wrapping up by the end of the month. So if you look at your grades, you'll see you have a few holes. Please fill them in. Little things like your attendance at webinars. There's several people who have not gone to the last webinar, even the webinar before that, to fill out the Word document to say that you attended. And there are a lot of people who still need to do Assignment 1 for Module 5, so please do that. And then there's some people that are missing stuff from quite a few weeks ago. So please.
I seem to be having
get that all wrapped up. We'd like to have everybody done by the end of the month.
Bandwidth. Est-ce que nous pouvons augmenter un peu la bandwidth? Okay.
Sorry, Hugh. Are you talking to somebody else? Okay.
Yes, I was. Yes. Trying to get a bit more bandwidth.
I think that's about it. Hugh is going to have another scintillating webinar for you today, all the way from Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso, and with good bandwidth. Hooray. And we have Andrew joining us from, are you in Nairobi, Andrew? Well, Andrew's mic is off, but I guess he's in Nairobi. So, all right, we have quite a few people here. What I'm going to do is
to register the SIM card number. That is it.
We are now to the point where we have enough people. I think we have critical mass. So what I'm going to do is ask people to go around and just say hello from wherever you are. We can start with Kinkin, and if you want to turn on your cameras for a minute when you say hello, and then make sure you're muted after that, but you definitely can ask questions of Hugh later on. So welcome, and we'll start. Everybody just go around, say a quick hello, and start with Kinkin.
Yes, I'm a Kinkin. I'm from Myanmar.
Welcome, Kinkin. Glad you're here. How about Caesar? Hey, Caesar, good to see you. Can't quite hear you. Yeah. We have your face, Caesar, but not your voice. So if you're going to ask questions, you'll have to fix that. But we have Temitope. You're still in the car, making progress along your trip. We can't hear you, but you can wave. Nope, your microphone is not working, brother. That's all right. And then we have Inez or Zawadi. Hi, Zawadi. How are you?
I'm fine. Hello.
Great to hear your voice. There she is. Excellent.
I'm in Nairobi.
You're in Nairobi. Oh, wow. You're right near
Yes.
Andrew. You have to say hello to Andrew. He's nearby. So.
Hello, Andrew.
And we have Fidel. Good afternoon, Fidel. Fidel is there. He'll hopefully respond. And Abby. Good afternoon, Abby. Can you say hello? There he is. He's driving. Also driving. It's like, are you flying an airplane? You've got the headset on.
On the road.
On the road.
I'm fine.
Okay, excellent.
No. Yeah.
All right, and Robert. Hello, Robert Gonza.
Oh, hi. How are you doing?
Good. Welcome.
Thank you.
Jean Baptiste.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, Jean Baptiste. Welcome.
Hello, how are you? Thank you.
Good to hear your voice. And Christopher. Hello, Christopher.
Hello,
How are you?
how are you there? I'm good. I'm in Kampala.
Who is that? Christopher. Oh, you have a delay in your voice. Now I can see your lips are moving.
Okay, thank you.
10 seconds after I hear your voice. It's a little delay. And Sabina. Good afternoon, Sabina. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good to see you.
Afternoon, Sabina.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, we have about half the crew here. Hopefully the others will catch up with us. Some of you just came on. I was just saying, please catch up with your assignments, your discussions. You have to document that you came to these webinars with a quick little document. So please go ahead and do that. We really would like to get the grades to be wrapped up by actually 2 weeks from this coming Friday, which will be the 30th. We won't be completely done then. We have some evaluation that we want you to do, and we are going to have a graduation party, a virtual graduation party, where I'll give you your certificates virtually, and then we'll work on getting your actual certificates to you through the mail or some complicated handoff situation where we can give it to someone that is coming your way. All right, well, without further ado, I think I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hugh, who is in Wagga, with good bandwidth.
Okay, everybody. I hope you can all hear me. I just wanted to underline what Bill said. This particular last assignment is really quite important because it shows that you're beginning to think about how to use the system to produce reports. You did pretty well on data entry, but we're coming along a bit slowly on the reporting assignments. So if you're finding out that you have any difficulty with the reporting assignment or you want further clarification, please just email us or put up a message on Skype. Okay? Right. What I want to do now is I want to move on to today's webinar. Okay? And if you remember last time we were together, we started to look at reports, and we looked at MIS level reports. And those were reports which are basically what I call big bosses reports. Okay? And they are reports which don't look at field operations in terms of trainers or groups, but they look at overall results which are aggregated and they're useful to senior people. So what we did was we had this. Now today we're going to look at, we're moving away from the MIS level where you're looking at the results of projects, and we're now looking down at the project level where you have the project administrator. So if you remember at the MIS level, you could see results from more than one project. Now you can only see results from a single project, which is your project. So what reports do we have? If you remember, these are the MIS level reports which we looked at last week. Project aggregator, where you add together projects. Project comparison, where you compare them. Benchmarks, where you produce, you can see how you compare with what is going on in your own country or in a sub-region or even a continent. Trends, which is basically graphs, and project map. And we pointed out that with project map, you can have more than one project showing where your groups are in different colors. Okay, now today we're moving down to the level of the project administrator. Okay, and we have two levels of reports. We still have what I call the big bosses reports. Okay, and you'll notice that the big bosses reports are the same as above. We have the benchmark, we have the trends, and we have the project map. But instead of being several projects, it's just one project. Okay? And here, instead of having project aggregator, we just have a single project. And we don't have a project comparison report because we're not comparing it to anything at all. Okay. Now, in addition to those reports, we have operational reports which look at what's going on in the field. Okay, now here we're actually looking at the people who are doing the work. We have trainers. We are comparing the performance of trainers. We have two reports for that, the trainer comparison report and the trainer performance report. They are reports which compare what each trainer is doing compared to the other trainers. We have a group comparison report which compares the groups of a particular individual trainer. And then we have a group performance report which looks at a single group. And finally, and this one is probably useful from a management point of view, we have a data aging report where we can see how old your data is. So we're going to go through these reports today, having completed the ones on MIS. Okay, so remember, MIS reports. These reports are prepared by the project administrator, and so we're looking at two classes of reports, which is project management report. If you see here, this is the home screen of the project administrator, and reports are found in the project management's tab. and the operational reports tab. So we're going to be looking at reports here and here. Okay. Bear in mind, as I say, this applies to a single project. Okay. Now, project performance setup. Okay, so here we are. We're coming into project management reports. Okay. Okay, and we're going to be looking at project performance. Now, we looked at the project performance report at the MIS level last week, but if you remember, that report was an aggregation of several different projects. This is for a single project. Okay, so this is what we're going to be looking at. And what the project administrator can do is they can set the date of the reports. You can have a report which is at any date you choose to select. You can decide whether or not you want to have groups which are self-managed or supervised. The groups which are being supervised. And then you have results, okay, which this one is quite an interesting report because it only selects the results from groups at the end of their cycle when they're doing their share out. So if you really want to find what's happening to your average shared out group, you can click on that, okay? Or you can select groups of a particular age. You can say, I only want to look at groups which are 6 months old or 9 months old or 12 months old. So you make your selection and then you can get a report. Now, in this particular case, we have just prepared here a report without any of those choices. So if I go back to here, we simply looked at we simply accepted all the default settings. So we're going to look at all groups and today's date. We're not selecting results at the end of the cycle, and we're not selecting group age. Right. So here's the report. Now, you have here project scale and membership profile. It basically looks at the number of men and women. It looks at the attendance rate. Here we see 90.6%. It looks at the dropout rate, and it looks at membership growth rate. Okay, so here we had 5% of dropouts, one person in 20, but the actual number of members in the group increased slightly. So they had more people joining the groups than they had losing it. We have the project average group balance sheet. We have assets here. We have loan fund, cash in box, bank balance, value of loans outstanding, property now, social fund balance, and so on. And we have liabilities, and we have equity, and we have net profit. So this column here, to reiterate what we did last week, this shows the results, pardon me, for the whole project. And this column here, pardon me, look at the results only for the average group. Then we look at what is the what we call the service, the financial performance, and we say what are the benefits to members, and we see here we have profits of 248,000 Tanzania shillings. Sorry, as you were, yes, that's right, paid out in the average group. Had some dividends which were paid, so the average benefit to members was 257,000 Tanzania shillings, which is aggregate. So this was the total profit that the average group made in this program. At this point, we're not talking about at the end of the cycle. So here you have new groups and old groups, and it's just an average across the portfolio. Then down here we have return on savings, 18%, very good. Return on assets, 16%, and so on. So this is a summary, an overall summary of the project, and it shows that we have a cost per member of 78,000 shillings per member, which is approximately $30. So it's a little bit expensive, this project. Okay, so this is your project, single project performance report. And now, then we come to the benchmark report. So it's exactly the same format as the benchmark report at the MIS level, but it only covers one project. Okay, so no project selection is needed. Here we have selected both. In other words, we've left everything at default. We have shown, we're looking at groups which are both graduated and supervised, and here we're looking at the data of the report. So here's this report. It's a bit difficult for you to see, but what's really useful about it is that you have your project, the results of your project against all of these metrics here, and you have it compared here to the country as a whole. So here you're looking at every project in Tanzania, all right? So you can see that in Tanzania, the average attendance rate is 91%, but for the project, it's 90%. Average growth rate in Tanzania is 3.4%, but for this project, it is 2.7%. So we're comparing, okay? But we have more people borrowing, 41% to 32%, okay? And the fund utilization rate is less. We're having more people borrowing, but the number of people who are borrowing is slightly less. So anyway, you can look at this report and you can say, as a project manager, not as an MIS manager, you can say, where do I have to improve? Okay. Now then we come to trends, which we showed you last week. This is simply graphs. So here we select trends. And then what we do, we've selected group status as both. And we're showing, for a graph, you have to have a starting date. And here you have to have an ending date. So we have a starting date in November 2017. And here we have an ending date, or today's date of 2018. So the graph you're going to see is for 1 year. And here is the selection of graphs you can produce. And I've chosen to produce a graph showing number of groups. So here it is. This is what they've managed to achieve in a year. They've slowed down in the last few months. Okay? Right. Now, project map. Now, this one is very easy. With the at the MIS level, it's the same. You click on project map and you don't have to do anything at all, and it will just automatically produce the map. Okay? It's the same as the other one, but it only shows the results for a single project. Okay? So you click on project map and this is what you get. Okay? So here you have the groups. Here you have the name of the group, the person who is doing the monitoring, and the group status and the GPS information. So note that only one color is shown because it only covers one project. And the list is automatically generated that provides GPS coordinates for each group in decimal format. Okay, so here it is in decimal format. Right, so now that finishes the big bosses reports. That's basically our reports produced by the project administrator, looking at what you might call project level reports, where everything is aggregated together. But now we're moving down to what I consider to be the most important reports, which are the operational reports. Okay, and these are reports which are basically focused upon the people who are working in the field. Now, before I move into these reports in depth, does anybody have any questions about these previous slides? Are there any questions anybody has about any of these reports I've been showing you? Bear in mind, we're looking at these reports here. We've looked at these reports here, the big bosses reports. Any questions about any of those that you've seen?
Hugh, I'd like to ask a question to point out something on the project performance report that is looking at comparing a project with the average in the country.
You mean the benchmark report?
There's one you just showed.
Right? Yes?
Not that one. The other one you just showed a couple of minutes ago.
Okay, well, this is the one which compares the project with the rest of the projects in the country.
Okay, let's look at the basic project performance report.
Okay, this one?
Go on. That's the one. So I
Yes?
was looking at these numbers, financial benefits to members. I see net profit 19 million. This is the project.
19 million.
Yes, and then the country average, or the project average rather, is 248,771.
No, the project average is the left-hand column. The project average is, it's not an average. This is the project result. This column is the project result. This is the average group here.
Okay, the average for the project.
Yeah, unfortunately, let me just move this thing out of the way because it says average here. Here, this is total, and this is average. So this is the average group.
And that's total for the project. Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
That's
Any other
clear.
questions? Okay. Right. If there are no other questions, I'm going to move on. Let me just get back down to where we were. Okay.
I had a question.
Yes?
I had a question.
Yes.
Why are you referring these reports to be as big bosses reports? I would think that the MIS, I would think that the MIS administrators reports are the big bosses reports.
Okay, maybe what I should call them, maybe what I should call them is I should call these the sort of the small bosses reports. Okay, you know, these people are people at the project level who are running the show. Okay, they are accountable to probably the program director or the country director, and they're interested as a project manager in providing reports which are aggregations, they're summaries. So project performance looks at the whole project. The benchmark report looks at the whole project. The trends report looks at the whole project, but it doesn't look at trainers. Okay, so these are reports which, generally speaking, move upwards and outwards of a project. Okay, they're not reports which go back down to the field. I mean, they might do. You might give a project performance report to the field, but you can't be sure. So, in fact, but these guys definitely want to transmit these reports to their superiors in head office, or maybe in the international office. They may want to submit it to a donor. So these are reports that are synthesis. They're a synthesis of what's happened in the field, but they don't look at individual performance. Does that answer your question? This second set of reports here, these look at individual. These are the ones we're coming on to now. They look at individual trainers. Okay?
Yes, yes.
So Hugh, Temitope has, he says it's now clear. He was asking a clarification.
Oh.
We cleared it up. So good.
Okay, good.
And just realize that your camera is looking a little bit more at the ceiling than you. So pull down.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. There you go.
Am I looking pretty now? Should I turn it off? Okay, right. Let's see, here we are. So we go on now to the reports which are basically focused at the field level. Okay, so they're what I call the operational reports, focusing on field stuff. This is really interesting because if you want to improve the efficiency of your program, you need to know how good your staff are, who is doing well and who is not doing well. Okay, so here's our reports. So let's take a look at, first of all, let's look at a certain typology. So here we have operational reports are focused on field operations and are designed to improve the performance of supervisors and field officers and their village agents. They are mainly used by project managers to track the effectiveness and efficiency of field staff. They operate in a descending hierarchy. Trainer performance report. By the way, somebody has got their microphone on, and I can hear children in the background. Could everybody mute their microphone, please? Okay. Trainer performance report. This is a report that is automatically generated in all projects in an MIS. And what it does is it provides a score. It enables the trainer to be given a score to compare their performance to other trainers. Okay. Now, this report shows up in projects, but it is set up, it is configured by the MIS administrator. And the big advantage of this report is it enables an MIS administrator to apply a standardized set of performance measures to all projects. So it's quite useful. It's quite useful in a project where you have, in a program where you have several projects that are operating in areas that are quite homogeneous. Where they are not homogeneous, it's a problem. Okay, so this is set up by the project administrator, and this enables the project administrator, by the MIS administrator, but it enables the project administrator to have a report that requires no input from him or her. It just is automatically appearing. Then we have the trainer comparison report. Now, this sounds like the same thing, and it is in many ways. The difference here is that it is set up by the project administrator, which enables the project administrator to choose his or her own metrics. The trainer performance report is set up by the MIS administrator and used at the project level, but the project administrator can create their own project level comparison report for trainers. Then we have a group comparison report. This looks at the portfolio of each trainer. So in other words, here you're comparing the groups of an individual trainer. Okay, but you are choosing the metrics that you want to have the trainers evaluated by. And then finally, you have the group performance report. So that's an individual group report. So in other words, what's happening here, these two reports here compare trainers. The first two reports compare trainers. This report compares groups of an individual trainer. And this one looks at an individual group. Okay? So generally speaking, what happens, pardon me, is that the trainer performance report, which compares trainers, is usually produced and distributed to all trainers. And they look at it and they are able to evaluate their own performance on using some simple comparison measures. Normally after that, the supervisor sits down with individual trainers and looks at their portfolio of groups, and together they try and analyze to see which groups are strong, which groups are weak, and decide what the trainer should be doing for the next quarter. Then you have, if you find through this process, if you find there is a group with some crazy results, you can go and look at the group performance report to see what in terms of the data looks a bit unlikely or a bit crazy. And then finally, you have a data aging report, which allows you to look at how old the data is. So this means you can manage staff and you can say, right, I haven't had any data from these 6 groups for the last 4 months. It's time you went and collected it. Okay, so let's go take a look at each of these reports. Now, the first one is the trainer performance report, and it is set up by the MIS administrator. So I'm backing out of the project administrator's role. I'm entering the system as MIS administrator. You see here it says signed in as MIS administrator. Okay, and I go to MIS configuration. Okay, it's done by the MIS administrator. And the MIS administrator clicks first on the MIS configuration tab, and then on the trainer performance configuration subheading. So here, I'm going as an MIS administrator, MIS configuration to trainer performance configuration. I'm sorry, I can't understand what's being said. Is somebody trying to make a comment?
Sorry, Hugh. Somebody's mic is not muted. I'm trying to find out who.
Is this Fidel? Maybe Fidel, if you have a question, can you type it into the sidebar and we can answer it? Okay. Bill, how should I proceed?
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So basically, before you can make use of this report, you have to set it up. Now, okay. So here you are. You're in the system. Okay. So when you've done that, this table automatically appears. And if you'll see here, we've got number of groups, attendance rate, average annualized savings per member, and percentage of members with loans outstanding, and return on savings. Now, these are the default choices. These are the things you can look at. But you select them from here. And if you don't like these, you can select your own metrics. So instead, I could put number of members and so on. Okay. All right. So now I've created this table. Okay. Here's the metrics picker. I've selected 5. Here I have the report. And you'll notice we have minimum, maximum, and weight. Okay. So now I go here, and here I have the table, and I filled it in. Okay. Now here what I'm saying is the minimum, I'm setting targets for the average trainer. So here, for example, we've said the minimum number of groups is 10, the maximum number is 20. We've said the minimum acceptable attendance rate is 80%. The maximum is 100%. Does somebody have their mic not muted? I hear some background noise. It's quite disturbing. Can you check to make sure you got your microphone off? Okay, right. Now then we move on to average annualized savings. These are the value of savings that you want the average person to have achieved by the end of a 1-year cycle. And here's the maximum that you expect, okay? Then we've got here percent of members with loans outstanding, and we simply say the minimum is 0. Nobody is obliged to take a loan. And the maximum possible is 100. And then we've said what would be a minimum acceptable return on savings, and we've said 10%. Maximum that you would expect, 30%. So what you've done is you've established upper and lower limits for what you think represents good or bad performance of a trainer, or a minimum acceptable level of performance of a trainer. Now what you've then said is, okay, I've done all this, but then which one is more important? So I've said here the most important is number of groups, and I've given it a weighting of 30%. Attendance rate is important. I've given it a weighting of 30. And then I said average annualized savings. These are savings groups, and we're going to give that 20. So you see now, so far I've got 80% weighting, and I've given 10% weighting for percent of members with loans outstanding, and for return on savings, I'm giving 10%. So what this means is that in my scoring, if I have 100% of members with loans outstanding, I can only get 10%. Now let's take another look over here. Let's say instead of 10 groups or 20 groups, let's say you have 15. That means that you are halfway between the lower limit and the upper limit. So that is 50%. Okay, you're halfway between what is the minimum acceptable and the maximum we want you to achieve. Now, we then factorize that by the weighting. So your 50% is factorized by 30%, and that means you're going to get 15% for that particular result. So this way we are able to set upper and lower limits, and we're able to say which of them is the most important. Okay, so the minimum value is here, for example, return on savings. Here is the maximum that you expect. Okay, the weight is a percentage value showing the relative importance of each metric. Number of groups has a 30% importance in the overall score, while return on savings has only got a 10% value, showing that the return on savings is considered to be less important. Notice that the total of weightings must equal 100. Then once all this is done, the MIS administrator saves the settings, presses the save button, and quits. They've done their job. They've set it up. Okay, now let's see what happens when this is done.
Hugh, could I ask
Let's take
quick question from Caesar. He says, is there an easy way to approximate the minimum and the maximum weight from your experience?
It's up to you. You have to decide what's important. For example, let's say you're doing a project which is all about assisting vulnerable women. You might choose a metric which is percentage of women, and then you might decide that's more important than anything else. So, but these are the ones I personally select, and the reason I select them is because these would apply to all projects, and number of groups is important because you want your field staff to be productive, but you also want good quality results. So, and also if people are showing up, attendance rate is important because if they're not showing up, that means something's wrong. The groups are called savings groups, so I place some emphasis upon savings, which is obvious, and then I start looking at loans down here. I consider loans to be less important than savings, so I'm sort of setting a left-right priority here. But the important point here is these are generic. If you have a program which has got other things that are important to you, you might select, like gender, you might select a different metric, or you might add a metric. You don't have to have 5. You can have 4, 3, 10, but we don't recommend choosing more than 5, because if you have more than 5, it gets a bit confusing to interpret the result. Okay?
And John Baptiste
Can I just add one more thing, Hugh?
Go ahead.
In terms of the actual, targets, minimum and maximum figures, what comes to mind is the need for a discussion. Before the MIS administrator actually goes in and sets the parameters, he needs to have discussed this with the project administrator, and probably the project administrator would have discussed it with his own team and the whole management, isn't it, Hugh?
That's a really excellent point, Andrew. There's no point in setting a bunch of metrics and standards which are imposed by bosses. You have to bring your staff along. So, for example, we were talking about number of groups. I would have a discussion with field staff. I wouldn't necessarily take it down to village agents, but I'd certainly take it down to field officers and say, "Come on, guys, what do you think?" And because if everybody agrees to these standards, they can't complain if standards show them to be performing not so well. So this must be a participatory exercise. Okay? Right. Now, here what we're doing is the project administrator, now to get the report, the project administrator logs on. So you're out of the MIS system, you're back in as project administrator. Then click on operational reports. They click on trainer performance. Okay? Then they click on compare, because you want to know who to compare. Are you going to be comparing field officers, or are you going to be comparing supervisors? 99 times out of 100, you're selecting field officer. Okay, so here's your report. Okay, now the top report shows the results for each trainer's list of groups. Okay, so here it is. And by clicking on the head of the column here, we have sorted it so that we see that Julia and Majuli have got most groups and RISPA has got the least. Okay, the attendance rate, that varies. We have 87%, 92%, 91%. We have quite a variety in terms of savings averages. And we have an average of 42% of members with loans outstanding, but we see that Esther has got 54%, very good. And then we have return on savers averaging 15.1%. Now, that report is automatically generated, but what's really useful is when you look at the bottom report, okay? The lower report shows the scores for each trainer by metric and a weighted score. So Majuli, her number of groups is above the 20 level that we set as the maximum, so she gets 100%. But RISPA has only got 5 groups, so she is below the 10% threshold, so she gets 0. Okay? Okay, in terms of attendance rate, remember we said 80% is acceptable. So you see here, she's got 87%, so she gets 35% as a score, because 87%, if you have lower at 80 and upper at 100, 7 is about 1/3 of the way between the two, so she gets 35%, and so on. So what this really does is at the end of the day, it comes up with a score, and this score tells us that Majuli is doing really well, okay, 57.4%, Julia 55%, but Esther and RISPA have got real problems. They've got very low scores, okay? Unfortunately. Okay. Now, so this is the trainer scoring. This one above is the trainer results. This one is the trainer scoring. Okay. Okay, any questions about that? Hey, by the way, this is a printout of that report. If you click on print, this is the result we get. Yes, Andrew.
An observation. If you look at the average score for the entire field officers team, it's 36.5%. That
Right.
means that the project has put a very, very high standard of performance. And,
yes, right, that's true.
The camera has only slightly managed above the half mark.
Right, because look, she's well below the savings threshold. She's only just above the savings threshold, and yes, we gave a high weighting to savings.
The savings,
okay, right. So she really got knocked down on savings. Now, you know, when you use this tool, you can use it for several months, and then you can say, right, maybe we need to adjust some of these criteria because maybe we're setting unrealistic standards, or maybe everybody's getting 100% and it's too easy.
That's right.
So you go back in and you adjust. But this at least gives you an objective output which doesn't depend upon subjective assessment of trainer performance. It's based upon numbers. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Now, we also have a trainer comparison report. Remember I said that this report I've shown you compares trainers based upon what the MIS administrator has set up. But the project administrator, it is strongly recommended that project administrators use the trainer performance report to make a simple score-based comparison of trainer performance against pre-agreed benchmarks. It needs no input from project administrator. There are cases, however, where there are big differences in economic and climatic conditions between different projects in an MIS. And in such a case, performance standards need to be tailored, adjusted to the special conditions of each project. So to do this, the project administrator uses the trainer comparison report. So here we have such a report. And we click here. You click on operational reports. You click on trainer comparison. You then select whom to compare. In this case, field officers. Then who is the supervisor? So here, it says compare field officers of, and you could have a particular supervisor, or you could select all the supervisors. So here we've selected all of the supervisors. And then we select the metrics. These are the metrics here, and that automatically produces these titles here. Okay. So here's a result. Now here's the result. We've actually selected the same metrics, so we should get the same results. But the project administrator can make this report specific to their project. Okay, but in this particular example, we chose the same metrics to show you get the same result, but you have the freedom, for example, you could add a % of female members, you could click on dropout rate, you could look at average loan size and so on. So the results are displayed. The user can select a column, so you've got the results, and you can select a column, and you can click on it, and it will sort the whole table from high to low, or from low to high, according to how you want to do it. And in this case, we've sorted the whole table by clicking on number of groups. You can select a different date for the report. You can select group age. You could only include groups which are, let's say, 6 months old. You can choose whether or not they are supervised or self-managed. Okay, so again, you can contextualize this report. In most cases, though, you would be comparing field officers, you would include village agents, you would probably have a report which was today's report, you would have group statuses both, and you probably wouldn't look at group age, but you can if you want to. Right, now, wait a minute. I think I have. I'm afraid I've made a mistake here. I've repeated this slide, if I'm not mistaken. Project trainer comparison result. Yeah, I've repeated the slide. Okay. Okay, so let me go back in here. There's something extra I added, and I wanted to show it to you. I remember now why I put it in. Now, okay. Now, notice that Rispa Amolo has a negative return on savings for her groups. Okay, so here I am. I've made this comparison report, and all of a sudden I notice that everybody's groups are making money. They're making a percentage return which averages 15%. But she's actually losing money. Now that's a big alarm bell, and I might want to look at that. So what I've done then is I've used two reports. I've used the trainer comparison and the trainer performance reports to really come up with some sort of conclusion about who's doing well and who's doing badly, and to see if there are issues I really ought to focus on. She has two basic weaknesses. She has very few groups, and she has groups that are losing money. So at that particular point, I'm going to go to a different report. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to compare. I'm going to go to the group comparison report, okay? Because I want now to go and look at her portfolio. I've noticed the return on savings is very low. Let me just take you back. Okay, the return on savings is very, very low. Okay, savings is very, very low. Number of groups is very, very low, and so on and so on. And her attendance rate is very, very low, very, very weak. Okay, so let's carry on. So I've selected here RISPA. Okay. So the group comparison report looks at all groups of a single trainer, The arrow's in the wrong place. It should be down here. It also includes her village agents, and she has selected 5 metrics. We've selected 5 metrics for her, and we click on Run, and here's the result. Okay. Now, if you look at this result, you'll notice something immediately. It is clear when return on savings is sorted that RISPA has 2 groups that are losing money, one of them quite seriously, 16%. See, these 2 groups, and one of them, 16%, pretty bad. Okay? It is also obvious that none of RISPA's groups are very profitable, so the project administrator decides to take a look at Consolata A by reviewing the group performance report. So we've gone from comparing trainers to comparing the groups of a single trainer to identifying groups that may have problems. So here we have Consolata A. Okay. The setup only requires that the name of the person monitoring the group is selected. So we've monitored by RISPA Amolo. Okay. And then we also select the name of the group from a drop-down list. So we've selected, I couldn't screenshot the drop-down list, but there's a drop-down list. When you put RISPA's name here, only her groups show up. You click on the group, okay, and then what you do is you get an operational report. So here we have it, okay. We have the operational report, and I'm going to take this away from here and put it at the bottom. This is why I like having 2 screens. And here we have what's happening with this group and what is happening for the project average. This report compares the group to the average for the project. It will be seen that there are losses. Hang on, I've got to move this thing out of the way again. Okay, that there are losses of 120,000. Okay, and they are caused when you look at it very carefully. See, you've got return on savings is minus 16, but there's a loss of 120,000. But then you suddenly realize the reason for that is they have paid themselves dividends of 220,000. So they've paid themselves more money than they're getting in profit. So that means that their capital is dropping. If they hadn't taken a dividend, they would have had a profit of about 100,000. So this demonstrates how the report can be used to pinpoint weaknesses for a supervisor to discuss with the trainer. So here, the group has paid dividends, and so the recommendation would be, don't pay dividends. If you're going to have savings groups which share out, they shouldn't pay dividends, but if they do, the dividends should be very small to make sure you don't diminish the capital base of the project. Right, now those are basically the operational reports. Let me just go back. We've only got one more slide after this, so let me go back to here. Okay, so we've done trainer comparison and trainer performance. By the way, in a future version, we're going to put these 2 reports side by side so that you don't move from one tab to the other like this. But you've got the trainer comparisons, basically. Then you've got comparing groups of a single trainer. Then you've got looking at an individual group. And now we have data aging. Okay, so we come down here. Now, the data aging report, I really like this report. Okay. So, now what happened there? Okay, so this report automatically displays. If you click on it, you will just find it, okay? And it allows the user to see the number of groups that have not had data collected in less than the days set up on the data age threshold setting. So here we've said, I want to know how many groups of each trainer have not had data entered in the last 150 days. And you'll see, for example, that Medjuli has had 4 groups she hasn't collected data on. Julia Majara has 1 group she hasn't collected data on. And the average trainer has 2 groups they have not collected data on. Okay? So that's fine, but it doesn't tell you it doesn't tell you very much. If you want to look at the specific result, you have to click on the name of the trainer. Okay, so let's say you click on one of these trainers, and then you get this report. And what we did is we clicked on Medjuli Kimarai. She has 4 groups. And it will then show you that these are the 4 groups. This was the last time data was collected, and this is the number of days. Okay, so the lower table is added when the selected trainer is highlighted. You click on it, and this shows the 4 groups for which she has not collected. Notice that the normal limit is 90 days, so 150 days is very generous. Okay, it's a lot to get through, but that's basically it. Ok, je vous remercie. Je dois payer le, pardon, je dois payer l'accès ici. Ok, pas de problème. Je vous remercie. Ok. Okay. Any questions, comments? Please go ahead.
There's an important question from Robert. I think it's appropriate for everybody. It has to do with the trainer performance report.
Yes.
Do you remember the average score for the field officers was about 36%?
Yes.
So the question is, how does this 36% compare with the parameters that were set by the MIS administrator, including the weighting?
Okay. To start with, okay, let me just go back and let's actually talk about that table, because I think it's a very important point. Let me just quickly go to how you set it up. Here we are. I think this is it. Yeah. Okay. Boom. All right. Okay. Here's the table, right? Now, which particular metric are you talking about, Andrew?
If you look at the final score, you see the figure 36% as the average for the results of all the field officers.
Mm-hmm.
So one wants to understand how does the 36% compare with the parameters that were set, including the weightings? So it's
okay, fair enough.
There's a bit of a confusion, but you can clarify.
Okay, now I know this once you understand the fundamental concept, it's actually very, very simple. The upper table here gives the actual results. Okay, it's some are in percentage form, some are simple numbers. Some are financial figures. Okay, some are.
You share that screen with us.
Oh, I'm sorry. Have I not shared it? Are we not sharing screens anymore?
No, we are still looking at the slide presentation.
Where are you now? Can you see Can you see?
We're seeing MIS reports, trainer performance selection by project administrator. So we need the correct slide.
Hold on, let's just go there. Boom, boom, boom. This one? Can you see it?
Not yet.
Your slides are not changing on our view.
I think I have to click on. What do I have to click on, Bill? New share.
Yeah, maybe
stop
sharing.
Click on. I'm going to click on new share. Okay, screens. Okay, share. Tell me if you can see that.
Nothing has changed yet.
Okay, going to stop share. Going to go for a new share. Try that one. Share.
Now it looks like somehow your screen has frozen. So we're just looking at, it says MIS reports, project administrator, operational reports, trainer performance selection by project administrator. And yeah,
Okay, just a minute. Launch meeting screens. I think I got it. Share. Oh, this is really strange because all of a sudden I've lost screen share.
Must be a glitch.
Let me stop sharing and let me start again. Okay, share. Boom, boom, boom. Tell me if you can see this.
Nothing yet.
Something is coming though.
We're still not seeing it quite yet, Hugh.
It might be a bandwidth issue. I really don't know what to say. Just a minute. You can't see that, right?
No, we're seeing one of your screens, Hugh. We're just not seeing the screen. It says you're
Which screen are you seeing?
just a blank screen, a black screen at this point.
It says Hugh Allen has started screen sharing. Double click to enter full screen mode.
Okay, let's go to full screen mode. Okay, boom, 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 boom. Okay, can you see that?
No, we can't see that.
Okay. How do you know? Okay, hold on a second. Let's try and resolve this problem. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. There's a thing which says resume share. Tell me if you can see anything.
No, yet. Nothing yet.
Yeah, not yet.
All right, I'm stopping share. Oh, I'm glad this didn't happen earlier on.
We would let you know.
Yeah, right. I'm sure you would have actually. Let's see. Let's try again. Maybe the problem is, I don't know.
Sure that all your windows are closed other than Zoom. And
I'm just trying to see if I've done something wrong. I don't think so. I didn't press on anything I'm aware of.
so you should have only your Zoom and your PowerPoint windows open. Everything else should be
I
shut.
beg your pardon, Bill?
Please, if you shut down,
Okay, let's.
shut down everything except Zoom and your PowerPoint.
Okay, just a minute. Shutting that down. And PowerPoint is open. And I'm going to shut down that. And I'm going to shut down. Okay, just a minute.
There you go.
All right.
Now we can see it.
Yep,
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Can you see it? Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Just give us a full screen.
Now,
Yep.
okay, you got it?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, now the question is, could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, if you look at the bottom table, underscore, right at the bottom there, you have an average of 36.5%.
Yes,
The average score for the entire team of the field officers.
that's right, yes. Mhm.
So the question is, actually, Robert asked whether that 36.5% is related to the 30% you said, which is, I think, a misunderstanding. You didn't set a 30%. What you did is you said you shared the weighting across all the 5 parameters.
Yeah, I think this is probably important. Let's just take a quick shifty at that. Okay, let me just quickly go to it. I think it's here. Okay, right. Now, I think I need to explain the concept again. Okay? You can sit and say, what is most important to us? And you said, well, number of groups is most important. Attendance rate. 30, that's also very important. So is that average annualized savings. And you have a discussion and you decide, you know, in terms of importance, what percentage would you give? You say, and I'd say, well, if I was evaluating a field officer, you know, I'd want to give 30% for achieving the target number of groups, maximum. I want to give 30% if they achieve the target maximum for attendance rate. but I would only want to give them 20% of the score if they achieved the maximum possible for savings. All right, and I would only give them 10% if they achieved the maximum possible for loans outstanding. So you're basically saying, above, in terms of the figures above, if you achieve the maximum, sure, you get 100% in each category, but then you factorize it by how important you think it is to the total. I'm not quite sure if I can explain it any better than that.
Robert, what is your point? Are you able to understand, Robert?
I think talking about the importance of whatever is being weighted, or whatever is being weighted, that's pretty important. But I was just wondering, is it okay to still say that, well, 36% is good because we set 30 as being like the highest?
No, let me explain to you something here. If you look at the final score, let's take a quick look at the final score here. Let's go here again. Okay. All right. Now, the point is that's an average. The 36.5 is an average. Okay. Now, if you've got a person who is really achieving top marks in every category, they will get a score of 100% because they got 100% across the board. Okay. But these figures here are so these figures here, you've got 100%, for example, Majuli got 100% because in terms of number of groups, because she exceeded the 20 limit. That contributed 15% to her score. Okay. And so that's the way this is all worked out. And then you go across and you get the average. It's that simple. But the main point here is that you may find that the 36.5, you may feel that's too challenging, and you may decide that some of your demands in terms of setting the upper and lower limits are too complex, so you don't want to go there and do that. You decide to reduce the standard so that people are more or less, your average is going to be above a certain threshold, like 50 or 60%, to encourage people.
Excuse me, Hugh.
Yeah, Robert, on this. The 36.5% and actually the 57.4% for Majuli. So Majuli is the top one with 57.4%. Yeah. And the bottom guy, or the bottom person is who?
RISPA.
Is RISPA with 14.9%.
That's right.
So that 36.5% is an average of how your field officers have performed. In connection
no, it is an average. It is an average of the, yes, that's right. You're basically saying these are not averages. This figure here at the bottom is an average of how they've performed.
Yes, yes.
Correct, you're correct. I get your point, Andrew. You're saying this is an average of this, and that's correct.
Does that mean that now, because you said that apparently that the program is doing well because it's 36.5, I feel like 36.5 is a very, very small value. If that is the score of, I mean, if that is the average of all the field staff, 36.5 should be bad. I would rather say the program is not doing well.
Well, the point about it is you have 3 field officers who've got low scores, right? Now, so basically you've got 3 weak field officers and 3 relatively strong field officers. But it may also be that the parameters we selected were too demanding. Okay, so let me see if you think you can spare the time. Let me take a look at an actual case. Okay, I'm going to go to the MIS if I've got the bandwidth. I'm not sure that I do. Yes, I do. And I'm going to go on as MIS administrator. Okay. Now, I'm going on to the project which we're looking at.
Remember to share the screen.
Sorry. Oh, haven't I shared the screen? I assumed I was. Oh, wait a minute. New share. Okay, just a minute. Here we are. Right. Tell me, can you see it?
You can see it.
Pardon?
Yes. We
Can you see it?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can see the Savix
Okay.
MI screen.
Now I'm going on as MIS administrator, okay? All right, now I go to my MIS configuration. I go to trainer performance configuration, and here is what I chose. Now, maybe I'm being too demanding, okay? So I'm going to reduce that to 20%. Percent of members, I'm going to leave that where it is. I'm going to reduce this down to 200,000, and I'm going to reduce this down to 18. Okay? So now I've changed the parameters. So now I'm going to save it. All right? Okay, now I'm going to go back to, I'm going to try and log out. Just a minute. Got to get this tab out of the way. Okay. Okay, I'm going to log back in as project administrator. All right, now we're going to go and going to take a look at that same report. Okay, so I go to operational reports and I do trainer performance and I compare field officers and I run the report. Okay, okay, it hasn't changed, and I'll tell you why, which is a bit unfortunate. The reason it hasn't changed is that the reporting modules are only updated every 5 minutes. Okay, but what I'm trying to say here is that, and I was hoping that it might have happened while I was checking, but unfortunately it's not true. Let me just try running again. It might have updated. Let's see. No, it's still the same. The point is that the percentages would have changed. Okay, and your 36% would have gone up. And in 10 minutes time, if you open this, it would have done the same thing. So what I'm trying to say here is that this is a bit of a trial and error situation. You start out by setting upper and lower limits based upon discussions with field staff. And then, 6 months in, you adjust things so that you begin to be confident that your expectations are realistic. I've just shown you something that you might start off with. Okay? The main thing here is to experiment with it, all right? Okay, the problem is that if you start experimenting with this and start changing things, and you are 20 people, it's a problem. Sorry about that. It should update, but unfortunately, it won't because of the time lapse needed. Yeah, you see what's happening here? It is reconfiguring the report. In 5 minutes or so, it'll be fine.
So there seemed to be, I was just kind of catching up with the chat, some confusion about all this, and there was a suggestion that maybe you begin the next webinar with packaging the response. And John Baptiste, do you have your mic available? Or Andrew, can you articulate what is being asked in terms of what is missing here?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand what he's saying. He's saying, I think you can package the response so that we start with it in the next webinar. It is key for us to understand the explanations so that we can make better interpretation. I think that maybe what is being asked by Jean Baptiste is that Hugh just says, well, this is so important, we need to actually review it next time, and maybe he commits 10%, I mean 10 minutes or so to starting with it. I don't know. Am I
okay? That's no problem at all. I'm quite happy to do that. I think also it would be very helpful if you looked at the let me just get out of here. I'm just going to get out of here, and I'm going to go and look at something here. Just a minute. Dropbox. And I'm going to look at, just bear with me for a second or two. Right. This is a complicated one. Okay, I fully accept that. Let's have a look online. Okay, here we are. No, not that one. Boom, boom, boom. Here we are. Modules. Here we are. Module 5. Okay, now let's see if we can check on this. Okay, here we are. I'll tell you where you really ought to start. Like, I mean, you can play with it if you like, but I mean, it's much more. I think it really helps if you actually start out by reading the documentation, and I'll give you the page to go to. Okay, here we go. Right, go to. Okay. Okay, it's item 7.4, and it is on page 13. Let me just, I think I've got to share screen again. Let's see now. New share. Where are we? This one here. Okay, share. Tell me if you can see it.
We can see here. It's good.
Okay. Okay. It's on page 13. Okay. And everything is very carefully explained, okay? And we give the example. We go through it step by step, showing what's put in, okay? We go through the whole example, get the reports, okay? And then how the report is used. So I think reading that will help resolve a whole bunch of your anxieties. And I would strongly urge that you go ahead and do that. But I will ask the question at the webinar at the beginning of the next webinar. Okay.
All right. So, are we? Any other final burning questions for Hugh? So we'll put this PowerPoint up. Hugh's got to make a couple of adjustments because there was a slide he had to fix. We'll put the PowerPoint up very soon and the recording later today. If you came on late to the broadcast, I just want to remind everybody, please catch up on all of your assignments. All the assignments for this module are up. Assignment 1 and 2. There are 2 discussions that are up, so please respond to them. And we have about 2.5 weeks before the course wraps up. So we'd like everybody to try to get all of their assignments done and everything completed so that we can have our virtual graduation party in early December. And everybody's grades will be up to date. We'll be sending you evaluation forms that everyone needs to fill out. So keep an eye out for that. All right, I think that's it. A pretty good turnout today. We had about half the students. So we appreciate those of you that took the here, and obviously those of you that drop off. You've hopefully picked up most of this through the recording. And those that didn't join it all, and everybody listening, make sure you fill out your documentation form attached to Module 5 to tell us that you were actually here. It's the only way we actually know that you were here. I see people's names here. I take a screenshot, but it's up to you to submit that verification form. So, all right, everybody, let us know if you have any other questions. Just you or Andrew an email or anything regarding the course management, let me know. Otherwise, we will see you. Our next webinar is next Monday, Hugh?
Yes.
Okay, so today we switched to Tuesday because of Hugh's travel schedule, but we will come back on as planned for next Monday at the same time. So everybody join us then and have a good rest of your week.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, Hugh. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye.